"She's a compulsive liar," I shouted, desperate for them to believe me. "She's been taking your money for months." My mother's face contorted with rage as she pointed toward the door. "Shut it, Rebecca. You've always been jealous of her. Always. Get out of this house right now." My father stood beside her, arms crossed, his silence more painful than Mom's shouting. Neither of them would even look at the bank statements in my hand. "But I can prove—" "Out!" Mom screamed, her voice cracking. "We don't want to hear any more of your lies." I stood frozen in our living room, surrounded by family photos where Olivia always seemed to be centered, always smiling, always perfect. My own face was often half cut off or caught mid-blink. A fitting metaphor for my entire existence in this family. I'm Rebecca Jensen, 22 years old, a finance major at Denver University, and I've just been accused of stealing from my parents. The truth? I've been working 2 jobs while keeping a full course load, sending them $400 every month to help with bills, and my sister Olivia has been taking credit for it. Worse, she's been stealing additional money from them and somehow convinced them I'm the thief. All I wanted was recognition, just once, that I was the responsible daughter, the one they could count on. Instead, I got thrown out of my childhood home 3 days before Christmas, clutching useless bank statements that my parents refused to even glance at. I trudged through the snow to my beat-up Honda, tears freezing on my cheeks in the Colorado winter air. Through the living room window, I could see Olivia hugging our mother, patting her back consolingly. The perfect daughter comforting our parents after the terrible trauma I had supposedly caused them. As I started my car, my phone buzzed with a text from my dad. "We're cutting you off. No more tuition help. If you want to make things right, return what you took and apologize to your sister." I slammed my palm against the steering wheel. Return what I took? I hadn't taken anything. And now they were cutting off the partial tuition help that had been my only financial support from them. Meanwhile, they fully funded Olivia's education, her apartment, her car. Before pulling away, I noticed something odd. Olivia had stepped away from our parents and was frantically texting someone, her face drawn with panic rather than the smug satisfaction I'd expected. When Dad approached her, she quickly pocketed her phone and plastered on a smile. Something wasn't right. This wasn't just about taking credit for my financial help anymore. The look on her face was pure fear. What exactly was my sister hiding? Growing up as Olivia's younger sister meant living in a perpetual shadow. She was the pretty one, the social butterfly, the daughter who made my parents proud at every turn. I was the awkward one, too serious, too focused on books and numbers. By high school, the pattern was firmly established. Olivia received praise for B- grades while my straight A's were simply expected. When we both enrolled at Denver University, I thought things might change. I chose finance, working toward a practical career that could provide stability. Olivia changed majors 3 times before settling on communications, more interested in the social scene than academics. Yet somehow my parents still saw her as the golden child. Last spring, when Dad lost his job at the engineering firm, our family finances took a hit. Mom's teacher salary wasn't enough to cover the mortgage, bills, and support 2 college students. I immediately picked up a second job at a campus coffee shop on top of my weekend retail position. Every month since July, I'd been transferring $400 to my parents' account, a significant chunk of my earnings. Initially, I didn't tell them. I wanted to help without making Dad feel like he'd failed as a provider. But when he found a new job with lower pay, Mom mentioned how grateful they were for Olivia's monthly contributions. I was confused but thought it was a misunderstanding. Until 3 days ago when I discovered the truth, Olivia had been taking credit for my transfers. She'd even shown them fake bank statements, somehow editing her name in place of mine. When I confronted her privately, she just laughed. "They'd never believe it was you anyway," she said with a shrug. "I'm the one they expect to take care of them." Despite our differences, I'd never truly resented my sister before that moment. We'd grown apart over the years, but I still remembered the times she'd stood up for me against bullies in middle school, or helped me get ready for my first date. Part of me still wanted to believe there was goodness in her. But recently I'd noticed changes. She'd become secretive, disappearing for hours without explanation. Her spending habits made no sense. One week complaining about being broke, the next showing up with expensive new clothes. She'd asked to borrow my car late at night for mysterious errands. Once I found a matchbook from Golden Peak Casino in her coat pocket when she asked to borrow a scarf. When I mentioned it casually, her reaction was strangely defensive. "I was just there for dinner with friends," she snapped, snatching the matchbook away. I should have paid more attention to these warning signs. Maybe then I could have prevented what happened next, the betrayal that would eventually tear our family apart. The morning after being thrown out, I was awakened by a call from my mother. "Rebecca, your father's credit card statement came in. There are 3 cash withdrawals from ATMs at Golden Peak Casino, totaling $2,000 this month alone." Her voice was cold, accusing. "We know it was you. Who else would steal from us like this?" I sat up in bed, stunned. "Mom, I don't even have access to Dad's credit cards. I've never been to that casino." "Stop lying," she hissed. "Your sister saw you take his wallet last weekend. We're filing a police report today unless you return the money immediately." The call ended before I could defend myself. I stared at my phone in disbelief, my mind racing. Dad's credit card? Golden Peak Casino? The same place from the matchbook I'd found in Olivia's coat. I quickly logged into my bank account, calculating how much savings I had. $3,426, almost all from my 2 part-time jobs. If I paid my parents $2,000 for withdrawals I never made, I'd barely have enough for next semester's books, let alone the tuition portion they were no longer covering. My hands trembled as the full reality hit me. Olivia wasn't just taking credit for my financial help. She was actively stealing from our parents and framing me for it. And they believed her without question. I tried calling my father, but he sent me straight to voicemail. I tried texting my mother proof of my work schedules, showing I couldn't have been at the casino during those withdrawals, but she responded with a single devastating message. "Stop contacting us until you're ready to admit what you've done." My roommate Jessica found me sobbing on our couch an hour later. "Your parents still think you stole from them?" she asked, sitting beside me. I nodded, wiping my eyes. "And now Olivia's saying I took cash advances on Dad's credit card at some casino." Jessica's expression shifted. "Golden Peak Casino?" "Yeah, how did you know?" She hesitated. "I saw Olivia there last month when I was having dinner with my cousin. She was at the high-stakes poker table, dropping hundreds on each hand." The revelation hit me like a punch to the stomach. "Are you sure it was her?" "Positive. I was going to say hi, but she seemed intense, almost scary. I watched her lose at least $1,000 in 20 minutes. Pieces started falling into place. The late-night disappearances, the unexplained new clothes, the defensive reaction to the matchbook. Olivia had a gambling problem, and she was using our parents' money to fund it, while making me the scapegoat. "I need to tell my parents," I said, reaching for my phone. Jessica gently pushed my hand down. "Think about it, Beck. They've already chosen to believe her over you despite your evidence. You need more proof." "Like what?" "Like catching her in the act. Casino security footage, credit card records, something they can't deny." She was right. Simple denials wouldn't work against Olivia's manipulation. I needed irrefutable evidence. That night, I lay awake making plans. I'd uncover the truth about my sister's gambling addiction and clear my name, but I'd need to be smart about it. One wrong move, and I'd lose what little credibility I had left with my parents. For now, I'd gather information quietly. The thought of exposing Olivia didn't bring me joy, just a heavy resignation. How had we come to this? My own sister, destroying my relationship with our parents to cover her addiction. My first step was contacting the bank. With my finance background, I knew their policies well enough to navigate the system. "I'm concerned about potential fraudulent activity on my father's account," I explained to the customer service representative. "I have authorization to discuss his accounts." A small lie, but necessary. "What kind of activity are you seeing?" the representative asked. Multiple ATM withdrawals at Golden Peak Casino. My father never goes there. After verifying my identity, thankfully I knew all my dad's security question answers, they agreed to send statements from the past 6 months to my email. When the documents arrived, my stomach dropped. The casino withdrawals weren't just from this month. They'd been happening regularly since August, starting with small amounts and gradually increasing, all on days and times when I had verifiable alibis, work shifts, or classes with attendance records. I printed everything and compiled a folder of evidence, including my work schedules and bank statements showing my own transfers to my parents. With renewed determination, I drove to my parents' house the next morning. Mom answered the door, her expression hardening when she saw me. "I have proof it wasn't me," I said, holding up the folder. "Please, just look at these documents." "More fabricated evidence?" She started to close the door. "Mom, please. These are official bank records. The withdrawals happened while I was at work. I can prove I was nowhere near that casino." For a moment, I thought she might listen. Then Olivia appeared behind her. "Is that Rebecca?" she asked, her voice dripping with fake concern. "Mom, you shouldn't be talking to her. Remember what Dad said about enabling her lying?" "I'm not lying." I thrust the folder forward. "The bank confirmed the withdrawals happened during my work shifts." Mom hesitated, then took the folder. A small victory. "You should leave now," she said coldly. "We'll review these and contact you if necessary." It wasn't the reconciliation I'd hoped for, but it was something. I returned to my apartment feeling cautiously optimistic. That evening, Jessica found me studying at our kitchen table. "Any word from your parents?" she asked. "Not yet, but Mom took the documents. That's progress, right?" Jessica didn't look convinced. "I hope so." My phone rang. Dad's number. My heart raced as I answered. "Rebecca?" His voice was strained. "We need to talk about these accusations you're making." "They're not accusations, Dad. They're facts. I've been sending you money, not stealing it." "We reviewed your documents. Olivia explained everything." My hope deflated as he continued. "She says you're trying to frame her because you're jealous of our relationship with her. She admitted she was at the casino those days, with friends for dinner only. She saw someone who looked like you at the ATM." "That's impossible. I was at work. Call my manager, check the college attendance records." "Enough," he cut me off. "Olivia has been nothing but supportive. She even offered to cover the missing money, despite your attempts to blame her." My mind reeled. She was doubling down on her lies, and they were still believing her. "Dad, please. We're blocking your number after this call. Don't come to the house again. When you're ready to admit what you've done and apologize to your sister, we'll reconsider our relationship." The line went dead. I sat in stunned silence, the phone slipping from my hand. "They're blocking my number," I whispered to Jessica. "Olivia convinced them I'm framing her out of jealousy." Jessica's eyes widened. "She's good. Really good. What do I do now? They won't even speak to me." "You need something they can't ignore," Jessica said thoughtfully. "Would your parents' bank let you view security camera footage from the ATMs?" "Probably not without a police report," I said, then paused as realization dawned. "But the casino might have footage, and loyalty program records if she's a regular." "Exactly," Jessica nodded. "If Olivia's been gambling frequently, she's definitely in their system." A plan began forming in my mind. I might have lost this battle, but the war was far from over. Golden Peak Casino loomed before me, its gleaming facade a monument to both hope and desperation. I'd never been inside a casino before. My budget-conscious lifestyle didn't allow for gambling. The irony wasn't lost on me as I walked through the entrance, immediately overwhelmed by flashing lights and electronic chimes. At the reception desk, I asked for the security manager. "I'm concerned about a family member with a gambling problem," I explained, when a stern-faced woman named Diane appeared. "I believe they've been using stolen credit cards." Diane's expression remained neutral. We take fraud very seriously, but we can't disclose information about our patrons without proper authorization. I understand, I said, producing the credit card statements. These withdrawals were made on my father's card. He's filed a police report. Another lie, but I was getting desperate. She examined the statements. Without the actual police report or your father present, I can't help you. I was about to leave when a man approached. Thomas, according to his name tag, Assistant Manager of Customer Relations. Excuse me, he said. I couldn't help overhearing. Is this about Olivia Jensen? My heart stopped. Yes, she's my sister. Thomas glanced at Diane. This might be connected to the investigation we already have open. Diane's demeanor shifted. Come with me. In a small office, they explained that Olivia had triggered their fraud alert system by maxing out multiple credit cards over the past few weeks. They'd been building a case before contacting authorities. We have her on our loyalty program, Thomas explained, pulling up records on his computer. She's lost over $35,000 in the past 6 months. The number hit me like a physical blow. $35,000? That's impossible. She's a college student with a part-time job. Unfortunately, it's quite possible, Thomas said grimly. We have documentation of every visit, every game played, and there's more. He pulled up another screen, a credit check they'd run when Olivia applied for a casino line of credit. My name was listed as having opened 3 credit cards in the past year, all maxed out at casinos. That's not me, I whispered, the room spinning around me. I never opened those cards. Identity theft, Diane said matter-of-factly. Happens often with gambling addictions. Family members are the easiest targets. I left the casino with copies of Olivia's gambling records, security photos of her at ATMs using our father's card, and documentation of the fraudulent credit cards in my name. The evidence was overwhelming, but still not enough. My parents needed to see Olivia in action to believe the truth. When I returned to my apartment, a final blow awaited. An eviction notice. My rent was 3 months overdue. That's impossible, I told Jessica, showing her the notice. I always pay on time. We called the property management company, who confirmed the rent had been automatically withdrawn from my checking account each month, but the payments had bounced due to insufficient funds. But I have money in that account, I insisted, pulling up my banking app. The balance read $46.72. No. I frantically scrolled through recent transactions. There were withdrawals I'd never made, transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. Oh my God, Jessica whispered, looking over my shoulder. Olivia has access to your bank account? Memories flashed through my mind. Olivia borrowing my laptop to check her email when visiting months ago. Me, foolishly saving my banking passwords in my browser. She's been stealing my money too, I said, my voice hollow. And my identity. Those credit cards in my name. She's destroyed my credit score. The revelation was crushing. This wasn't just about my parents anymore. Olivia had systematically dismantled my financial security, stolen my identity, and left me holding the bag for her gambling debts. I was facing eviction, credit card fraud, and a destroyed credit score that would take years to repair. This ends now, I said, a cold determination replacing my shock. I'm not just clearing my name anymore. I'm taking her down. I stayed up all night, fueled by a mixture of rage and determination, building my case. I couldn't go to my parents directly. They'd made it clear they wouldn't believe me. I needed a plan that would force them to confront the truth. First, I froze my credit to prevent Olivia from opening more accounts in my name. Then I contacted the credit card companies about the fraudulent cards, filing official identity theft reports. Next, I compiled a comprehensive document with every piece of evidence: bank statements, casino records, credit reports, work schedules, and class attendance logs. Everything organized, annotated, and undeniable. This is impressive, Jessica said, reviewing my work the next morning. Finance major strikes again. It has to be perfect, I replied. my eyes burning from lack of sleep. I only get one shot at this. I contacted my parents' neighbor, Mrs. Whitfield, who had always been kind to me. "Rebecca, how are you, dear? Your parents mentioned you're going through a rough patch." "That's one way to put it," I said carefully. "Mrs. Whitfield, I need a huge favor. It's important." She agreed to host a small intervention at her house. She would invite my parents over for coffee and provide a neutral ground for our confrontation. I knew they wouldn't come if I invited them directly. With that arranged, I made my final move. I texted Olivia from a new number, pretending to be a gambling contact. "Big game tonight at Golden Peak. Your credit line is approved for another $10,000. She replied immediately, "I'll be there. Save me a seat at the high-stakes table." Perfect. Now I knew exactly where she would be while I was meeting with our parents. The day arrived. I sat in Mrs. Whitfield's living room, my evidence folder on the coffee table, my heart pounding. When the doorbell rang, Mrs. Whitfield greeted my parents warmly. "Rebecca's here," she said as she led them in. "She has something important to discuss." Their faces hardened when they saw me. Mom turned to leave. "Please," I said quickly, "give me 15 minutes, that's all I ask." "We told you not to contact us until you apologized to your sister," Dad said coldly. "If you still want me to apologize after seeing this evidence, I will," I promised. 15 minutes. Mrs. Whitfield gently urged them to sit. "Listen to your daughter, please." Reluctantly, they sat on the couch opposite me. I handed them the folder. Everything is organized chronologically. Bank statements, casino records, credit card fraud reports, and identity theft documentation. I've highlighted the important parts. They began reviewing the documents skeptically, but their expressions gradually shifted as they absorbed the evidence. The color drained from my mother's face when she saw the security photos of Olivia using Dad's credit card at the casino ATM. This can't be right," she whispered. "There's more," I said, showing them the credit reports. She opened 3 credit cards in my name, maxed them all out at casinos. My credit score is destroyed. I'm being evicted because she drained my bank account. My father studied the gambling loss records. $35,000? In 6 months? She has a gambling addiction, I said softly. She's been stealing from all of us to fund it. "Why would she do this?" Mom asked, tears forming. "Addiction isn't rational," I replied, "but we can confirm everything right now." I pulled out my phone. "Olivia is at Golden Peak Casino right now. I made sure of it. We can go there together and you can see for yourselves." Dad's hand trembled as he set down the documents. "What if you're wrong?" "Then I'll apologize and never contact you again," I said firmly. "But I'm not wrong." They exchanged a long look, years of family dynamics hanging in the balance. Finally, Dad nodded. "Let's go." As we drove to the casino, I felt no triumph, only sadness for what lay ahead. This wouldn't be a victory, just the painful truth our family needed to face. The casino parking lot was full when we arrived. I led my silent parents through the entrance, heading straight for the high-stakes poker area where Thomas had told me Olivia usually played. And there she was. Olivia sat at the poker table, surrounded by chips, her face locked in intense concentration. She didn't notice us at first, too focused on her cards. My parents froze beside me, watching their golden child place a bet worth more than a month's mortgage payment. Thomas, the assistant manager, approached us quietly. "That's her 3rd buy-in tonight," he informed us. "She's already lost $4,000. My mother made a small, wounded sound. Olivia looked up at the noise, her expression shifting from confusion to horror as she registered our presence. The cards fell from her hand. "Security has been monitoring her," Thomas continued, handing my father a tablet showing footage of Olivia at the ATM earlier that evening, using what appeared to be multiple cards. "We have reason to believe she's been using fraudulent or stolen credit cards." "Mom? Dad?" Olivia stood, abandoning her chips. "What are you doing here?" "The better question. my father said, his voice barely controlled, is what are you doing here? Casino security approached, flanking Olivia. Thomas addressed her formally. Ms. Jensen, we need to discuss the credit cards you've been using tonight. We have reason to believe they're not authorized. This is a mistake, she stammered, eyes darting between my parents and the security officers. I can explain everything. My father held up the folder of evidence I'd compiled. Like you explained Rebecca's theft, or how you explained the withdrawals from our accounts, or the credit cards you opened in your sister's name. The blood drained from Olivia's face as she realized the full extent of what had been uncovered. The careful house of lies she'd built was collapsing around her. I was going to pay it all back, she whispered. Tonight was going to be my big win. My mother began to sob. My father simply looked broken. The security officers stepped forward. Ms. Jensen, please come with us. As they led her away, she looked back at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of shame and rage. I held her gaze, not with triumph, but with sadness for everything our family had lost. The aftermath was both vindicating and heartbreaking. My parents and I sat in a conference room at the casino while Olivia met with security in another. Thomas explained the full extent of her gambling problem. Thousands of dollars lost over months, escalating dramatically in recent weeks. The credit card fraud, the identity theft, the systematic deception, all laid bare under the harsh fluorescent lights. We won't press charges on behalf of the casino, Thomas explained, but the credit card companies and banks may have different policies. My parents nodded numbly. The shock had rendered them almost mute, occasionally glancing at me with eyes full of regret and apology. When they finally brought Olivia in, she looked small and defeated. The confident golden child was gone, replaced by a scared young woman facing the consequences of her addiction. I'm sorry, she whispered, unable to look any of us in the eye. I didn't mean for it to go this far. My father, his voice thick with emotion, outlined what would happen next. Olivia would enter a treatment program for gambling addiction. She would work to pay back everything she'd stolen. There would be no criminal charges if she complied, but there would be strict oversight of her finances. And you will apologize to your sister, my mother added firmly, and do whatever it takes to help repair her credit. As we left the casino, my father put his arm around my shoulders, a gesture of affection I couldn't remember receiving since childhood. Rebecca, we failed you, he said simply. We should have believed you from the start. We were so blind, my mother added, tears streaming down her face. Can you ever forgive us? I nodded, too overwhelmed for words. The validation I'd sought for so long had finally come, but at such a cost. The next day, I moved back into my childhood home temporarily, while sorting out my financial situation. As I unpacked my meager belongings, I found myself looking forward rather than back. I'd clear my name, rebuild my credit, and finish my degree. The painful chapter was closing, and a new one where I was finally seen and valued, was just beginning.